Hi there, welcome. It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. Thanks to the show team and our affiliates, and to you, the listeners, who we know are going to drive another interesting and perhaps lively conversation today. I'm Jerry Usher along with Debbie Georgiani, and once again, our nation, and really, I would have to say the world, went to bed in a state of mourning, and we wake up today still grieving, still sad about the loss of the latest school shooting, this one in Florida. And Debbie, we had a topic all set to tackle today with our listeners, and we just felt that it warranted switching to this topic, and we want to just prayerfully approach a discussion about this with our listeners and really kind of look at this from all sorts of different angles.
In light of this tragedy that happened in South Florida, our hearts go out to everyone, the families. I can't even imagine 17 confirmed dead. Jerry, my stomach has been in knots since my girlfriend called up and she had a splitting headache and she said, please turn on Fox News immediately. You got to see what's happening. I said, what's happening? And I turned it on and I went into the typical parent mode, Jerry, where I was thinking, my goodness, I couldn't even imagine saying goodbye to your teenager to go to school like they do so many times. And then it was the last time that you saw them, the last time they came home. And as a matter of fact, we were talking about that yesterday, Jerry, that we never know when it's going to happen. And this was absolutely just brutal what happened to these children. Their innocence has been completely robbed. 17 dead. I think it's up to 10 really badly injured. It's just it's heart-wrenching and gut-wrenching to think that this could happen, and what can we do about it? So we felt that we needed to open up the lines and hear what you had to say about this, because we know you probably have something on your heart you want to say, on your mind, or maybe you just want to kind of we can all just be together in prayer. But it's important that we do that on Take Two, because you drive the show and it's about you. So here's the number. 1-833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986.
Yeah, and again, we can come at this from a lot of different angles. I would like to put a few things out there for you to consider, perhaps calling in and sharing your take about. And that is, first of all, just, as Debbie said, as a parent, I mean, if you have young kids, teenage kids, and you kiss them goodbye and send them off to school every day, I mean, we don't want to talk about, fear and anxiety and paranoia and stuff like that. But does it even cross your mind? Or when something like this happens, does it kind of make you kind of, sit up and take notice and say, oh my goodness, another one. Also, what can we do as a society? I mean, how can a 19-year-old young man waltz into a school apparently armed for military combat, if you will? And I don't know the setup at the school. Debbie, maybe you know some details about that, but it just boggles my mind how, especially Debbie, I want to hear from people how, this young man had a very troubled past, red flags all over the place. He'd been expelled from the school, had made threats. He had apparently, videotaped himself, killing animals and stuff. And I mean, I asked the question, Debbie, at what point, does it not really, sink in that there's possible danger looming here? I don't know. Mm-hmm. I just asked the question. I don't think I have the answer.
As you know, Jerry, I've worked with teens for many years. So many, I can't even count them. Probably 12, 13, 14 years. And my graduate degree is in adolescent spirituality. And I really focused on that age group, adolescents and teenage years and young adults. And Jerry, you hit the nail on the head. There were red flags. Everybody's going back. Even the kids, even his peers said there was problems. But we all have our ideas of what went wrong. And, some people try to politicize it. Some people are trying to bring it back to, that we don't have God in this world and the family breakdown. And all of these contributing factors, understandably so. But here is the thing, Jerry. My personal opinion on this is I think so many people, including our children, have been silenced. Now it's coming out. If you see it, say it. If you see it, say it. It's all over the news now. Well, you know what? We're going to have to get some courage. And if we see things, we've got to say things. Even if we're labeled a hater or a bigot or this or that, or all the things that people want want to do to keep us quiet. Because maybe if those children had spoken up, and the parents and the counselors, and it goes on and on and on, just maybe there could have been some help for this person that did this heinous crime.
All right, 833-288-EWTN 3986. Take two with Jerry and Debbie. We have shifted gears. We had another topic scheduled for today. And Debbie, I think we've only done this 2 or 3 times in the nearly 3 years that we've been doing the show, where we kind of switched to a topic about something that just happened in the news. And this certainly warrants that, we believe, and we'd love to have your takes on this, and just a couple other things I would like to put out there by way of invitation. Picture yourself being, say, on the scene right now, and you had a chance to speak to one of the parents, or you had a chance to speak to the students. What would your heart say to them right now? Debbie, I was praying in the middle of the night. I wake up several times during the night, and I swear, Debbie, I was praying, and I had such a helpless feeling. I thought, this is not true, but this thought washed over me. I thought, not even God can console these people right now. And as I was praying, I said, God, please, somehow, some way, bring some peace into their lives. And I thought, it can't happen. And I know God can do that, but especially in the immediate aftermath of this, you can only imagine what the families are going through. So, friends, if you had 5 minutes with the families, if you had 5 minutes with this poor young man who committed these crimes, what would your heart say to him? He's a lost soul in so many ways. We must, Debbie, still find a way to love him. Obviously, while serving justice, but he is worthy still of great love and compassion, and he's almost certainly acting out of a place that is not, in good balance. So many angles on this.
Well, and he's been charged with several counts of premeditated murder, and Florida has the death penalty, and he is 19, and he's facing a really bad future. Right. And so, he's a soul. He's a soul. And you know what? This is tragic all the way around. Please call in and share from your heart. 1-833-288-EWTN. Now, Jerry, a lot of the accounts and things are unfolding as we speak, so it's hard to, speculate or have confirmed facts. There is, I just recently read it was confirmed 17 have died. So, there's a lot of things. So we're kind of going around with this, but we're going to do this together. We need your help. Please call in. Phone lines are lighting up. Of course, you have a lot to say about this, and we all do. Our stomachs are aching for the folks in Florida right now. We can't even imagine what they're going through. Please stay with us. If you can't stay with us, pray for the folks in Florida. We'll be right back.
Jimmy Akin.
One of my greatest joys in life is the joy of discovery, especially discovering answers to the questions about God, about the world that He's made, and how we can find our way to Him.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Peggy Normandin.
I was really pretty vain in my mid-20s. I was consumed with all those, superficial trappings in life. Well, during this time, I had a dream where my grandmother appeared to me. She was a very loving, plain, modest woman of great faith. Well, in the dream, she was absolutely radiant. And she said, "This is what I look like now. Everything is perfect in heaven, Peggy. This is all that matters." What a powerful spiritual wake-up call that was.
Call Me Catholic with Peggy Normandin. Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
On fire for EWTN? Get Amazon Fire TV. All you need is a high-speed internet connection, a TV, and the Amazon Fire TV player. Never miss any of your favorite EWTN television or radio programs again.
A Lenten Reflection with Father Dominic Legg.
Lent is a 40-day journey to Good Friday, where we commemorate the Lord's Passion and death, and to Easter Sunday, where we celebrate His resurrection. But it's profoundly true that the Christian life is being conformed to Christ, and above all, to being conformed to Christ crucified. St. Paul writes in the letter to the Romans, "Don't you know that all of us who have been baptized into Christ were baptized into His death?" In fact, there are many ways for us this Lent to be conformed to Christ crucified. All the little sufferings we endure, maybe the difficulties from our Lenten penances, they're a way in sharing in the suffering of Christ on the cross and offering up our sufferings in union with Him. That's a very powerful way to grow in holiness, to offer up those little sacrifices, because Christ on the cross is the example of the Christian life, of patience, of love, of forgiveness of enemies. Let us make Christ crucified our guide this Lent.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and you. And as Debbie mentioned, you do have a lot to say about this topic. We are discussing, unfortunately, sadly, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting in Florida yesterday. 17 confirmed dead, 19-year-old suspect in custody. And we're coming at this from, whatever angle that you want right now. 833-288-3986 EWTN, the last four numbers on there. We're going to go right to your calls. Deborah in South Florida, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hello, Deborah. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Thanks for calling. Hi, Deborah.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Can
Yeah,
you hear
you're on.
me?
We can hear you fine. Yes.
Thank you. I live within 20 miles of that school, and yesterday was a day of death all around for me. In the morning, we were at the abortion clinic praying for the babies and their parents. And then we had this news in the afternoon. But the thing that struck me was the goodness and forgiveness of one of these young men that had to have been about 14 years old. And they were interviewing him, and he said, well, this boy has had a rough life. He said he's always been an outsider. People have made fun of him. And he said he did not kill himself, so he wanted to live. And we must remember that, forgive him, and he is a soul also. Of course, my heart goes out to these parents and these children. It's just horrible. But there was this one beacon of forgiveness, and he actually saw people die and stepped over dead bodies. So if he can forgive them, then we must pray for all of these people.
Yes.
And that's
Deborah.
all I wanted to say.
Yeah,
Well,
beautiful,
Deborah, our hearts go out to you. I'm sure it's just radiating throughout all of South Florida. So, it instills, all these senses of fear and worry and all these things that can come through because of what's happened. And then I also heard too that there's rumors of copycats starting to happen and stuff like that, or being, spoken about. So, Deborah, our hearts go out to you, the community.
Well, my
go
advice,
ahead.
I'm sorry for interrupting you.
That's okay.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. My advice is turn off the television, turn off the radio, and get on your knees, people.
Mm-hmm.
Grab your rosaries, and thank God that my grandson that I kissed goodbye this morning, who is that same age, is still with us. And I said, remember, this could be your last day on earth. Give it your best, baby.
Yes.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you for
Deborah.
sharing. Jerry, I was watching some of the news reports, and if I got it correctly, they were saying just recently, right before the show, that some of the kids had siblings that were in the school. So one child lived in the same family, and one died.
Right.
That's you're going to have all sorts of things happening. These children are traumatized, and we've got to care for them through, if we can't actually physically care for them, then let's prayerfully care for them. Let's pray for all these children. Those children we saw, Jerry, you and I were watching the footage together. Those kids were running for their lives.
Yeah, and just two quick things I want to mention regarding Deborah's call. One, something like this does not happen just out of nowhere. This young man didn't wake up yesterday morning and just say, hey, I'm going to go get some automatic weapons and go into the school and kill a bunch of... this is something that there are so many factors that go into this that we don't understand. God alone really understands, and we ask God to have mercy on him and to judge his actions and his soul with compassion and mercy. So we have to keep that in mind, and that's hard. That's hard sometimes. And the second thing is this 14-year-old that she mentioned was on TV offering forgiveness on the spot, Debbie. God's grace is so often powerfully present when we might not expect it. We don't think it is. We don't see it. We don't feel it. But to see a potential victim who just lost a bunch of his schoolmates interviewed and offer forgiveness and really compassion, saying he was troubled. We must understand that and forgive him. That's powerful to me. That's the presence of the Holy Spirit.
Yes, that is definitely being Christ. And I'll tell you, Jerry, the other thing I want to just emphasize is the heroic acts that were taking place by the teachers. They were responding very quickly. And I think of John 15:13, no greater gift than to lay down one's life for his friends. And this is where I'm going to get choked up. The coach that used his body as a shield to protect children. He died. He died, and he had a wife, and he has a young child. And you know what? I can't even imagine that. And he was a big guy. So you can imagine that he was taking the bullets for these children. There's a lot of great saints.
A lot of beautiful stories come out of something, a tragedy
Tragic.
like this.
Yeah.
Okay, Marilyn in Alpena, I believe it's Alpena, Michigan, listening on Baraga Broadcasting. Hi, Marilyn. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know where to start. I heard about this latest incident last night on the news, and the newscaster said this is the 18th school shooting this year. And I'm thinking, no, you must be saying something wrong. 18 school shootings? We're only into the 6th week of this year. And then I heard other newscasters say it also. So 18 shootings in 6 weeks. I can't understand. I have thoughts about what. I don't condemn the 19-year-old. He's obviously has problems, but thought went through my mind with most of the other school shootings. These kids shoot people and then they commit suicide. But with this incident, this 19-year-old is living. So maybe we can find out something of what was going on in his mind. Yes, I can appreciate what the 14-year-old said about forgiving him, but I wish we could find out what brings this on. Why do these kids do this? And my theory is that, if we can get rid of that dang abortion, these kids that are doing these shootings are growing up with abortion happening all the time. And if they see us, the public, killing babies, then what's wrong with killing?
Well, Marilyn, on that point, I don't know the veracity of this comment. Somebody can help me if it's true or not. I believe it probably is. Mother Teresa, I heard it attributed to St. Teresa of Calcutta, who once said the fruit of abortion is nuclear war. And some people would hear that and say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, what she meant is exactly what you're saying, Marilyn. Mother Teresa was saying, if we will kill the most vulnerable and the most innocent, who will we not kill? So we just take things to extremes. And you're right, Marilyn, and Debbie, she's hitting the nail right on the head. We have a culture of death. We have a throwaway culture. What's to tell these young kids, especially the troubled ones? Let's face it, this young man certainly had diminished brain health of some type and emotional issues, and we don't know what they are, and I'm not going to speculate. But what's to stop them from doing these kinds of things? If, as Marilyn said, they look at grown-ups who are taking the lives of the innocent babies, and they just kind of put the puzzle pieces together and say, well, there must not be anything wrong with this.
Right. Yeah, I can hear the frustration in your voice, Marilyn, and I share that with you. The thing about it is, in my own humble opinion, I think it's a lot of contributing factors. You have this, like Jerry said, this young man who has diminished brain health or capacity or something of that nature, and then you take him and you isolate him because he felt isolated. He was shunned by his peers. We have a basic human need to be accepted and to love and to be loved and to love and to have dignity. We've lost all that in this world. Think about it. When you can have online bullying, when you can bully someone to the point where they could take their own life, and you do it all behind the mask of the internet. You got to be kidding me. We're in a mess. Marilyn, we share your frustration on this, but you know what? We believe in the power of prayer. So we've got, I agree that we've got to get on our knees. We've got to pray rosaries. We got to storm heaven, and we got to ask the good Lord to please intercede and help us with this. Marilyn, thank you for sharing your heart today.
Thank you, Marilyn, for the call. We have a line open, 833-288-EWTN. Take two with Jerry and Debbie. We have set aside our regularly scheduled topic for today to talk about the latest horror. As Marilyn or Deborah pointed out, one of them, 18th school shooting in 6 weeks. I did the math on that, Debbie. It comes out to about 2 a week. A little bit over 2 per school week. Well, actually more than that, because school didn't resume until early to mid-January. So we're talking about, probably 18 school shootings, maybe in about 4 or 5 weeks of school. Yeah. So it's really it's unacceptable.
It is, Jerry. I understand that this school had security. They hadn't, yeah. I believe so. So you know what? See, they took all the precautions, they did everything, but still, this can happen because someone's going to find a way that they want to make sure they scream out and be heard. And this person screamed out loud and tragically. Okay, Katie, in Fort Wayne, Indiana, listening on Redeemer Radio. Welcome to Take Two. Hi, Katie.
Hi there.
Katie. Hi.
Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I had a couple comments. One is regarding just the safety and the value of our fellow human beings, whether that be in our homes and in our community, and just the respect that we have for one another, and how can we raise that up to a higher level. I just spent some time on a 30th anniversary trip with my husband to Australia and China, and I would talk with people who were natives, and they just talked about how safe they felt in their country and that they didn't have the problems we did. But I felt that they were much more rule followers. There was an element of respect and regard for other people. In a way, they felt maybe more cared for. And I don't really know what all goes into that, but I could feel the difference. The second thing, I guess, as we all reflect and feel such sorrow for these victims and their families and the whole school system, and what these people deal with, that tells a lot about us as a people, that we care for one another. And for those people who might question whether they're for life or not, I believe that people should stake claim today that they are for life. When they feel the sadness of these lives being taken, they need to declare and work for the dignity of every human person. And I don't know that our mission sometimes doesn't get lost in the ebb and flow of everyday life, and these other issues are in isolation, like abortion or like people with special needs. But, today there's so many people hurting over the loss of these lives. And so I would say and suggest that there's a ton of people out there that today should say, I am pro-life.
Yes. Katie, great comments. And I'm reminded of a quote, I believe it's attributed to Martin Luther King Jr. He said something like, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And he went on to say, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. And your comments are actually very poignant in that, there are maybe a lot of people, Debbie, who got up today and heard the news and they thought, gee, that's too bad. Okay, on with my day. And if this doesn't move us to great pity and compassion and even tears, then we really have to check and see, how connected we are to the rest of the human race. But I also wanted to just say this really gets at, Debbie, I think one of the things we try and stress and emphasize in the whole Stand Tall movement. And, the Bible says, love your neighbor as yourself. We've talked on this show, there is a crisis of healthy self-love. When we don't love ourselves, how are we going to love our neighbor? So really, all three of those are connected. Love the Lord with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. All three of those have to be strong and in place.
And Jerry, also, too, we have still this huge stigma that revolves around brain health issues. And believe me, I'm not excusing this young man at all. What he did was horrible and horrific and reprehensible. But I will tell you that if we've got to remove that stigma, because we all have a touch of brain health issues. Okay, I'm going to go be that bold and say that. Just we live in a world that has that. So we've got to help others and not just push them away and hope they go into the woodwork and go away, because they're going to come back maybe kicking and screaming. And that's exactly, in my humble opinion, what this man did. Katie, thank you so very much for your contribution today. I heard your tears and I was crying right along with you. So thank you.
All right, we're going to continue with your calls momentarily here. We have Anna next in Tampa. We have Ann in South Florida. Connie is on the line in Colorado. Sean in Houston. We have Alan being screened right now. It's a topic that obviously has your heart's abuzz right now and probably a little bit pained, maybe hopefully a lot pained right now. The grief, we all share in this grief, and we pray that God somehow will just shower all the people affected by this, not just this shooting in South Florida, but all the other school shootings, the tragedies, people who are suffering in any way. The world needs God so much right now. Let us be on our knees. This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio.
This is a Lenten Journey with Timothy Cardinal Dolan on EWTN Radio.
Did you ever hear of free will? God wants nothing more than our love. Love can never be coerced, so we can freely choose God to know, love, and serve Him, or we can reject Him. The choice is ours. That's free will. Moses talks about free will in the first reading for this Thursday of the first week of Lent. And he says, when you choose God, you choose not to do certain things. Choosing God, using our will freely to know, love, and serve God, means other choices contrary to His will are out. We call that the moral life. That's discipleship. That's the virtuous life. And that, my brothers and sisters, is the summons of Lent.
A Lenten Journey with Timothy Cardinal Dolan is available on DVD through the EWTN Religious Catalog. This DVD includes all 47 segments for each day of Lent, from Ash Wednesday to Easter Sunday. To get your copy, log on to our website, EWTNReligiousCatalog.com, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or call 1-800-854-6316.
EWTN, teaching the truth.
Thank you so very much, first of all, for this ministry. You have no idea what a blessing you and EWTN have been in my life and for my life, and I just thank you for that.
Well, first off, I'd like to say God bless you for your ministry, and my wife prayed daily for EWTN. It's a game changer in our world.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
We really appreciate you being with us today on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're talking about the Florida shooting that just happened yesterday, and we're sharing our hearts. You guys are sharing your comments via social media and your condolences. I mean, this is what we do as a Take Two family. We come together, we grieve together, we talk about it, we pray together. And so it's a beautiful thing that's unfolding, because you can only imagine. I hope it brings some hope to the folks in Florida. Okay, Anna, Tampa, Florida, listening on you or watching on YouTube. Hi, Anna. Welcome to Take Two.
Hello. Thank you for accepting my call. And normally I never call programs, but today is an exception. Originally I was born in Colombia, so I'm pretty familiar with violence, but I never expected in this country to have to face what we are all facing. What I found in these 37 years living in this country is that the society, and not only in America but in the world, has deteriorated extremely, in the sense of there's a lot of disrespect towards parents and authority. There's a lack of morality. There's a godless world where you can't even say anything about Jesus because people want to jump your throat. And also there's a lot of acceptance in the culture of death, and I'm going to give an example, and probably people are not going to be in agreement with me, but I never liked the show The Walking Dead. I watched it with my son, and it desensitizes people, and in accepting that shooting is okay, and it's not. And as far if I had 5 minutes to see the person who did this young man, I believe that everybody failed him, not just what he, like his parents. Or I don't know how he grew up, but I think the basis of a human person or anybody is our parents, where we come from. And if we don't have that base, then we have nothing. They're our first teachers. They're everything to us.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to say. Also, my sister lives half an hour from that place, and my sister is hysterical. She doesn't know what to do. My son is an adolescent, and I'm very much involved in his life, and I think as parents we need to participate more in our children, and I hopefully employers can understand and open their eyes that yes, we need to work, but we also need to pay attention to our families. We need to have a balanced life. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, Anna, you have said so much that is very, very helpful and insightful. So thank you, first of all, for calling. You said you never called a radio show before, but we're glad that you felt the prompting of the Holy Spirit to call today. And Debbie, I know you would agree with me. I think there were so many nuggets in what she said, but one of them is it gets back to what we talk about often on this show, and that is, the absence of God, the absence of religion, the absence of faith. As I always say, it's very, very simple. When you kick God out, guess who's going to come in? And we don't want to over-spiritualize this and say that, this was just all completely demonic or the work of Satan. But let's be honest here. Satan works on human weakness. He's very, very crafty, as the Bible tells us. He's the most cunning of all animals. So he looks at us and he sees where we are weak, where we're vulnerable, where we're wounded, and he will get in there and he will try to fan those flames. So there's no question, Debbie, that there was a spiritual element to this. Just how much, God only knows, but we have to work toward a restoration of God and family and love of each other's dignity and love of our country and one another. I mean, Anna has just hit the nail on the head for me.
Absolutely. Me too as well. I really appreciate, I know you said you don't call in. In fact, I think you said you never call in, but thank you for calling in. You really imparted some great lessons for us to really take to prayer and to understand better, to go back to the basics. Let's get back to the basics, back to the roots of where God had intended us to be. So Anna, thank you so very much for having the strength to call in today. And please, I think you said it's your sister that lives nearby. Let her know that prayers are with her, but she sounds like she's very broken up by it, and we are as well. So thank you for that call. Jerry, I just have to say real quickly, when I was watching the Fox News, I just wanted to say Father Jonathan Morris was on, and he's the commentator, the Catholic commentator on Fox News, and he issued everybody a really strong call to really wake up, and he said, love people who are broken. Love people who are broken. I wrote it down. And it's similar to what you were saying, Jerry, about that we have to get back to what is really what we're meant to do from our baptismal call. And he issued a real strong, directive to all of us to love people who are broken. It's clear that this young man was broken in many ways. I think recently he just lost his mother. His father died many years ago. This is not excusing his behavior at all. It was horrible. However, he was broken. And where were we? We have to be there. So I just wanted to share that.
Back to your calls. Ann in South Florida, listening on Peace Be With You Radio. Ann, we are grateful that you called Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Thank you, Ann. How are you?
Hi, thank you. I'm doing well. I just wanted a few suggestions maybe for people, for schools. I've worked in the school system I just retired for 30 years. And I worked in a high school, and every morning the doors were open, the students were funneled in, and then the doors were locked. No one could come into the school unless you went through the front door, funneled through the office. They asked you why you were there, what was, did you have an appointment, whatever. They gave you a visitor's badge. You signed in, and the doors were locked. You could not get in unless, perchance, a student might open a door for you, which they weren't supposed to do. But all the students have ID badges. Now, do they all wear them? No, not all of them do. The staff all have ID badges. In our school, we had peer counseling. They offered peer counseling, and if any teacher noticed some erratic behavior of students, of course it was reported. You had to go through the chain of command, and that student was recommended also for counseling. I do have to say that our school had meet me at the flagpole prayer every morning before school. It was ecumenical, and we also had once a month before classes began a prayer meeting. So, and it was also ecumenical. And the flagpole was right in front of the front doors, and students would walk by and they'd see us all holding hands and praying before classes started in the morning, and some of them would just peel off from their friends and join in. It was a wonderful thing to have. So I would recommend that maybe schools could begin to start.
Yeah, and though I just wanted to interject something, because I agree with you. Those precautions are common sense precautions, and we need those in place. But it's my understanding that this school had thousands of students, 3,000 students. It's very hard to corral everybody. It's very hard to keep track. And like you said, I would think, this. I was listening to another radio broadcast, and they were saying that they were in the police force for years, and they studied these cases, and that these kids or young people, they plan it out. They have all the stages of the plan, so they think everything out. I would think that if those things were in place, this man would have, texted a friend and said, open the door. So, I mean, there's ways, if somebody's going to execute something, there's ways they're going to get around the systems in place. I totally agree with you, Ann, but I just from looking at this, thousands of students, boy, that's overwhelming to me. What do you think about that? You worked in the school system.
Yeah, you are exactly right. I have been, in that position where, I've been walking down the hall, and, there's many different doors. Well, not a lot, and a student would knock on the door and say, let me in.
Right.
And if I knew who it was, they would come in. If I didn't, they would not come in. And you're right. There are ways around that, but at this time of the day, I think it was too close to 2 o'clock that the student planned that, all of our doors, we would have been locked down. I don't know if they do that. I think it's a good precaution. All schools have SROs, resource officers walking around. And like you said, before, you got to love on those kids. And we have someone in our family with mental health issues who has told us he hears someone in his head telling him to kill someone. Well, he's on med. He's definitely on med. And when I see him, I love him. I hug him. How are you? He started actually going to church, and he told me it helps him so much. So there, like you said, there's a lot of mental illness out there, and they need our love, they need our help.
They do, Ann, so much. And you have really made a great contribution to our conversation here today, and a lot to think about. And thank you, by the way, for your service at the high school level. I think you said for 30 years. That, unfortunately, tragically, as yesterday showed, it's certainly not universal, but it's really becoming almost a heroic vocation that you answered just in many ways to form the minds and hearts of our young people just in general, and then obviously being in a place of where something like this could potentially happen. So thank you, Ann. for your years of service at the high school level. And folks, we're in Lent. Ash Wednesday was yesterday, and just want to tell you real quickly, EWTN Publishing has probably it's destined to be a go-to resource for anyone during Lent. And I really encourage you, now that we're at the beginning of Lent, to get your copy. It's called Making a Holy Lent, 40 Meditations to Prepare You for the Church's Holiest Season. Now, we've started the 40 days, so you're thinking, well, it's already into Lent, I can't use it anymore. Well, you can just kind of go back and maybe do a couple a day for a few days and get caught up. It's with host Father Bill Casey, and he turns our attention to Jesus in very, very brief reflections, and it is absolutely wonderful. He talks about the Eucharist and the role of Mary, and it's called, again, Making a Holy Lent, 40 Meditations to Prepare You for the Church's Holiest Season by Father Bill Casey of the Fathers of Mercy. That's available at EWTNRC.com.
Jerry, you were talking about Lent. I just wanted to say, as I was watching Fox News, I was very, very impressed with the fact that Martha McCallum, the host, and Laura Ingram wore their ashes for Ash Wednesday. It was really beautiful to see. They didn't deny their faith. They boldly proclaimed it. And I'd say way to go to Martha and Laura for doing that. And I'm sure there were other hosts that were doing it on Fox News maybe, or other stations as well. Okay, back to the phones. Connie in Littleton, Colorado on Denver Catholic Radio. Hi, Connie. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. I'm calling because I live within walking distance of Columbine High School, which is really about 20 years ago when that horrific shooting occurred. A couple of things that I think of in regard to that is that the clergy and the fellow parishioners and congregations of those children and families need to be remembered as well in our prayers. The clergy really go through a lot. Our priest went through, I think it was 7 funerals after Columbine. And we had, we had several children who were injured in our parish. Also, in listening to your previous caller, she really did some good things in her school, and I don't know if she had a public high school or was at a parochial school of some sort. But, people can't pray in school anymore. It's unless they are at a private school. My children, thankfully, who were high school age, were at Catholic schools at the time of Columbine, but they were affected. Also, somewhere along the line, you talked about people looking at these various school shootings, and there's got to be something that can be put in place that, for example, this Florida school expelled this boy.
Right.
Well, isn't that a very clear sign that they knew something was really wrong?
Well, Connie, let me just jump in here, because as I said at the beginning of the show, I was in youth ministry for many, many years, and I will tell you that when you see somebody with kind of those red flags, or that instinctual feeling goes off in you that something's wrong, the first reaction just from the culture is to just disregard, ignore, get rid of, get them out of the mainstream. Okay, that's it. We are in a fast-paced society. We're moving very quickly. Like Jerry said, we're a throwaway society, and so it's so tragic that we do that. But when you think about it and you look at it in any group situation, you'll see that. You'll see the one who has the disability or the limited capacity in some way, in any way, shape, or form. They're the ones that everybody goes, oh, what do we do with them? They don't know what to do, because we don't take that time That person is a soul, and we don't take that time, and we just push them away. That's my personal opinion on it, Connie. What do you think, Jerry?
Well, yeah, I mean, just a couple things. First of all, an Associated Press report did say that the young man threatened and harassed his peers, talked about killing animals, posed with guns in disturbing photos on social media, and bragged about target practice in his backyard with a pellet gun. So, like Connie is saying, you know, when he was expelled from school, obviously for a just reason, I presume. So again, you add all these things up. It's not the only factors that went into this, but you know, these are red flags that, you know, I don't know how you know, it can be overlooked in such a. But I wanted to mention too, Connie, you mentioned our priests and our clergy.
Yes.
You know, our ministers in other churches and so forth. You know, Debbie, when we have tragedies, there are first responders. You know, you see the law enforcement, you see fire, you see, you know, people. We sometimes forget that among the first responders are our clergy, our pastors, our priests, our ministers. And like she said, 7 funerals after Columbine. And these can weigh on our priests and our ministers. You know, they have the holy grace from God to be able to, this is what they do. So they have an anointing to do that, but still just the emotional toll upon them. So we definitely need to be keeping them in our prayers as well.
Yes.
Thank you, Connie. Beautiful contribution to the program.
Yes, it really was. We appreciate it. Sean, you're up next in Houston, Texas, listening on Guadalupe Radio Network. Hi, Sean. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi, y'all. Thank you for taking my call. I don't mean to sound callous, but in my personal opinion, this country is in huge denial about mental illness. I get angry, and I'm sorry that I say this. These kids live in a society like people in the past have been saying. What does it say to society about our country or any country that kills its own children through abortion? I don't mean to, you know, what can you say? You can't say anything to a parent that's just lost their child and is going to have to bury their child. But I suffer from depression myself. It's taking, through a law firm, 3 years, which I still have not been able to be awarded, but it takes 3 years for this to go through. And then here, you know, I sit in Mass, and I'm not want to throw blame at everybody, but if I sit here and I see some kids, when they walk through church, the way that they're wearing their clothes, it breaks my heart that they cannot understand, you know, how you approach our Lord. There's so many things involved. This young boy was, did a horrific thing, but he was adopted, lost both parents very young, and sure, there was red flags, but I think it's the white elephant in the middle of the room. Everybody says, you know, they never talk about it. But we've got to start getting a grip in this country because we are a hypocritical society.
Sean, you are hitting, I think, a very important point, and it's been made by, I know some of our callers, and Debbie, I think you've alluded to it as well, and that is the proliferation of mental health deficiencies, issues, things like that. It really is. It's a much bigger problem. How many young people are we hearing about today who are dying by suicide? You know, there's no reason for that except something's going on. And I have a lot of theories on that, and it's just not the time or place to get into all of this. I think there are a lot of factors that contribute to that. But yeah, Debbie, we have a problem, especially among our young people, and I don't know if it's being addressed adequately. I think Sean is right.
Because we're not kind to one another. We're not kind. You know, what's that when we always talk about that, you don't know what kind of, be kind to someone because you don't know what battle they're encountering within themselves. We're not kind. We don't take time. I remember it, Sean, in a lesser degree. I remember going through my divorce and I was telling people, I think I'm sinking into a depression, you know, and I would have thought would get 100 phone calls a day of people supporting me. All my friends, I didn't hear from them for days because as soon as I said the word depression, they ran. I mean, that's what we do, and it's really sad. A lot of things you're saying are striking a chord with me, Sean, and I think it's time we change things and really start to educate our world and approach things in a different way, in a comprehensive way. So thank you, Sean, for being so passionate with your call. We really appreciate it. Judy, you've been waiting so patiently. We're going to move to you in Orange, Connecticut, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Judy. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. And I just want to say my thoughts and my prayers are going out to those who have been affected by this tragedy. I just want to say that I personally have a child with special needs who has autism, and went through a period of time where he was having a great deal of difficulty with aggression. And I have to say that if his father didn't have a really good job where he was able to afford to get the services necessary, my son would be in a lot of trouble. And it's really scary because I don't know if people understand that one of the root problems is that if your administration, if your doesn't have the funding for, or tries to decrease the funding that goes out towards, trying to provide services to these kids who are, disturbed and having issues, then we're not addressing the root problem. And, for instance, I know when my son was dealing with his issues at the time, they didn't have the beds in the hospitals. And, we spoke to the doctors in the emergency rooms just saying, we don't have it. The capacity of people that are in such dire need of whether they're suicidal or having aggression issues, it's not there. And I feel like, we were very fortunate. My son also goes to a school, a special needs school, where the school system pays for it. But what about all these people who I know about who just can't get the services, or, people are working full-time jobs for their kids and they don't have the time to, search this stuff out. And it's just really scary to me that this isn't going to change until people start to look at that.
Right. We've got a lot of problems. It amazes me, Judy. I was sharing this with Jerry yesterday. Sometimes I just feel like the common sense in this world, there's somewhere it's gone sometimes. And in our country, especially the United States, we're advanced in so many ways, but yet we're backwards in so many other ways. It's amazing to me. I scratch my head all the time on this. I don't get it. But Judy, thank you for shining light on it, and God bless you for your strength. You sound like a great mom.
Yeah, thank you, Judy, for the call. And my goodness, it is that time of the program again. We could use several more hours to talk about this. Please, our forgiveness. So we ask from Alan in South Dakota, Kimberly in Chicago, Claudia in Houston, John in Minnesota. We've got only a minute left here, so we dare not take any other calls. But Facebook. But please keep the conversation going. Email us your thoughts at take2@EWTN.com. Sean on Facebook, EWTN Catholic Radio Facebook page says, so when are we going to stop leaving our schools unprotected? Well, Sean, that's something we can all take and ponder and reflect upon and pray about as we wrap up this broadcast. And via text, Pam says, no question, just a comment. When senseless acts occur, like this one of a school shooting, let us all do an act of kindness for each casualty. Plus, maybe light a candle next time you step into your church for those families affected by this horrific tragedy. They need prayers of forgiveness and peace that only God can give. Pray and let him do his works of mercy on their hearts and souls. And Debbie, at the end of the day, we must do all that we can, and then we must turn it over to God to do exactly what Pam is suggesting.
Yeah. Very true. Thank you for all your contributions today to this broadcast. It's a somber one, and we're all praying. I just wanted to encourage our Take Two family. Please pray to the guardian angels of everyone that was affected by this shooting, this tragedy, those that have died, those that are living, the families, the first responders, the clergy. Please pray to the guardian angels that the angels bring them some comfort. Jerry?
Yeah, and another person holding that we're not going to get to is Deacon John in Minnesota. It says, Deacon, that you're a retired law enforcement. I would love to hear what you might have shared on the program. Please email us, take2@EWTN.com. We continue to pray, and dear family of Take Two and EWTN, we know that you continue to pray as well.
Until tomorrow, have a beautiful and blessed day.